Well, I'm Jenny Abramsky, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have become the Chancellor at the University of East Anglia, because I came here years and years ago when there were only 600 students. So I was part of the first kind of 3 years of the university's existence. And to be Chancellor of your alma mater is something very, very special. In terms of the role, well, I suspect it's to be made of what I can make of it, because I'm not running the place. You've got a chair, and you've got a very, very good chair. But I'm an ambassador. I'm going to give out degrees, and I'm going to give whatever support I can to the Vice-Chancellor and his team to enable the place to thrive.
In terms of your career before becoming Chancellor, you've dominated the field in journalism, you've been super successful. We were just wondering, as young female journalists, what kind of tips you have into breaking into such a male-dominated field, or how your experience was going into that.
Believe me, it's not male-dominated in the way it was when I was there. When I first started in the BBC, first of all, I started right at the bottom, and started as what we call a studio manager, and I was just behind the microphone, setting up the microphones and things like that, and then I got a traineeship within the BBC. But when I was made the editor of a programme, I was the only woman who was the editor of a programme. All the other people were men. And for 10 years, when I was the editor of that news programme, I was still the only woman. And the second woman editor was appointed when I was made head of the department, and I appointed a second woman, and she was pregnant, and I was very proud of myself for having done that. So it is very different. My daughter works in broadcasting, and I've tried to explain to her how different it was from in our day. When I became pregnant with my second child, I was already an editor of a programme, but I managed to hold it secret for 5 months because I didn't want people to think that I couldn't succeed. And when I went to personnel to say that I was expecting a baby, they didn't know what to do, because they'd only had to deal with men and they'd never had to deal with maternity leave. So believe me, it's a different world. However, I do know it's still challenging. And the answer is, you can do whatever you can do. When I was a junior producer, we had a very talented female journalist who wanted to go to, there was a war in Lebanon, in the Middle East, sadly, and it was a war between Israel and the start of Hezbollah. And she wanted to go, and our editor, who was a man, basically said he wasn't prepared to send a woman to a war region. Well, now look, when you've got people like Lise Doucette, you've got some of the greatest war journalists are women. So I think my answer is, you can do whatever you can in terms of your talent, and just don't let anybody deny you it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for that. So in terms of seeing the industry change, what are your thoughts on social media and their impact for journalism today? Because obviously there wasn't things like Twitter and stuff, where you wake up and you have the news and that's your news.
Well, we used to have a ticker tape that used to go, and all we were getting on that ticker tape was from Reuters and from the Press Association and from Agence France Presse. So now you've got all these tweets going on, or X's or whatever, and you've got Instagram and etc. It's such a different world. The first thing is to make sure that what you're reporting is fact. And I think that one of the most dangerous things that has happened in terms of the world of journalism is the ability to allow a false story to run riot. And so always aim to make sure that what you're reporting is fact. In some ways, social media has, first of all, given you far more stories. You know, we had to really search them out. You're being handed them on a plate. And also, it's enabled you, you know, if you're somebody who's interested in politics, and I'm very interested in politics, and you make sure you follow all the political journalists and all the politicians that you think are worth following in that sense, and suddenly you can see their thoughts and all that kind of thing without having to lift up a telephone and try to find out where they are and they're in a restaurant, etc., which I had to do in my day. You've got them there instantly in that way. But the real challenge is fact. It's fact and nastiness, and you know that. And being able to make the judgment to see what you should be reporting and what you shouldn't.